Real quick, go check out Jayatal, the UK's most exciting electronic music duo. Their newest release, Connected, is available wherever you get music. It's energetic, melodic blast of electronica, ingeniously infused with acoustic instruments, and they support The David Pakman Show. Check them out using the link below. So the more we learn about Ron DeSantis's Martha's Vineyard immigrant stunt, the more we realize it was certainly immoral. It was certainly unethical. It was certainly a waste of Florida taxpayer money to send immigrants that were in Texas to an island off the coast of Massachusetts. Those things we all know. We know that it was dishonest because we have now learned that the immigrants were indeed enticed with false promises of all sorts of goodies at the end of the rainbow, for lack of a better term. But now there's a new question. And as often is the case with the very people who claim that they are all about law enforcement and due process and doing everything correctly and law and order, or law and auto, as Donald Trump has said before, it may not have been legal either. And there is a very, very good article in NPR about this on npr.org by Valerie Crowder. And I'm going to tell you some of the key points here that are now in question about whether this was legal or could it have been illegal human trafficking. So the first aspect to this is that Ron DeSantis described the flights on which the immigrants were taken to Martha's Vineyard as voluntary when he was speaking at a press conference on Friday. It appears that that was a lie. Immigration law experts say that actually what happened was the trafficking of migrants. When you lie to people to induce them to come somewhere to the U.S. or whatever, in order for something that is not true, you are participating in what is, functionally speaking, the same type of trafficking where young girls are tricked into going wherever with the promises of whatever it is they're promised, and then they're actually forced into prostitution, as an example. The dynamic is exactly the same. And we've now learned that these immigrants were told, you're going to be flown to Boston. They weren't. They were flown to Martha's Vineyard. You'll get expedited work papers, which was not actually what was waiting for them in Martha's Vineyard. And instead, what happened was churches and shelters and aid groups, as NPR writes, did the best to accommodate them on an island with an extraordinarily low population and very limited resources. Now, then we heard from a Tallahassee-based immigration attorney, Elizabeth Ricci, also quoted in this NPR article, who says there is a good faith argument to be made that when you lure migrants onto planes with false promises of jobs, you are making them victims of fraudulent human trafficking. Think of that. That is what the governor of Florida has potentially engaged in here. They were told, oh, you might, you're going to get this, you're going to get that. Now, here's the unbelievable part. If indeed these individuals are determined to have been the victims of fraud and human trafficking, they could automatically qualify for visas here in the United States. What Ron DeSantis may have illegally done could, we don't know yet, actually genuinely expedite these individuals to legal status here in the United States. Ricci explained, quote, an enticement like that, regardless of whether you sign a waiver, is fraud. And that's part of the definition of human trafficking. I think that everybody on those planes has a case to legalize as a direct result of being transported by the governor. Republicans will do illegal things. And if they get arrested or prosecuted, they will claim they are merely political prisoners, that they're being treated unfairly. This is what happened after the January 6th riots. The January 6th rioters, and there were hundreds of them, I think the number's up to 700 or 800, although it may even be over 1,000. They were acting criminally. And then once the law caught up with them, the claims started to be made of, well, they're not being given the right food in jail. They're being held unfairly in jail. Pretrial detention is unfair. These are victims of politics. They're being punished because of their opinion about an election. This is the move. So without a doubt, if the law starts to catch up to DeSantis and whoever else for this absurd stunt, mark my words, and you know this, I don't have to convince you of this, they will claim they are actually the victims, the people who did this, who were just trying to prove a point. Now, one other thing. There are right-wingers who think they're being really slick by saying something like the following. And there's versions of this floating around, you know? All you northern liberals talk about Texas and Florida and Arizona should just accept hundreds of thousands of migrants. And it's very easy to say from Vermont or from Massachusetts or whatever, but as soon as 50 people get to Martha's Vineyard, they are immediately deported out. Multiple things going on here. First of all, it's not a deportation when you're just flown from one state to another. That's number one. Number two, the intent of these immigrants was not to be in Martha's Vineyard. Martha's Vineyard is tiny. There's very few jobs. It's a very small economy, and it's a very seasonal economy because of tourism. And we're heading into fall and then winter, which is low season in Martha's Vineyard. There's not the real opportunity for any jobs there. There's extraordinarily limited housing, etc. So there's really not the hypocrisy that the right wants to point out. Furthermore, they were lied to in so getting to Martha's Vineyard. And as I mentioned, it was not their intent. So this hypocrisy that the right is trying to expose in talking about the Martha's Vineyard thing, it's a joke. And we shouldn't allow them to turn that around because it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. If you want to see some real cringe on this entire Martha's Vineyard and just generally flying immigrants, busing immigrants around stunt, I have video for you today of Fox News sending, listen, I don't know who speaks Spanish at Fox News. I don't know who they have that speaks Spanish, but one guy that multiple times has been sent to speak Spanish to migrants is a reporter named Griff Jenkins. That's not the guy on the screen right now. This is Steve Doocy, who's going to cut to Griff Jenkins. It's hard to think of a more cringy video throughout the last couple weeks of this immigrant Martha's Vineyard, Washington, D.C. busing airplane fiasco than this video. Venezuelan migrants, mostly Venezuelan migrants, not all, were, quote, interviewed by Griff Jenkins, and he can barely speak Spanish. He has no idea what they're saying. The migrants can barely understand his Spanish. It almost seems like a parody. Take a look at this.
From our southern border have just arrived outside Vice President Kamala Harris's residence at the Naval Observatory in Washington, D.C.
By the way, this is also part of the stunt, right? Send a bus of migrants right to where Kamala Harris lives. It's just this doesn't help anyone. This is just a stunt.
Griff Jenkins is live on the scene to tell us more. Griff, is that Massachusetts Avenue that I'm looking at right there?
Yeah. Good morning, Steve, Ainsley, and Brian. This bus just arrived moments ago. I talked to some of the folks. Apparently, this bus has come from Del Rio, Texas. That's what a gentleman on the bus told me. And these, pardon me, ¿de dónde eres?
So that way, if you missed what that was de Donderas. De Donderas. And even if you speak Spanish, it's like, what is he saying? What he's trying to ask is, ¿de dónde eres? Where are you from? That's the question. De Donderas. Sounds more like a Kanye album.
De Venezuela.
Venezuela? Habla inglés?
No.
Okay, so he asks, she says she's from Venezuela, asks if she speaks English, she says no.
Sí, no? No? La presidenta Harris dice que frontera cerrado.
Okay, so when he says there, frontera cerrado, what he means is the border is closed. Kamala Harris said the border is closed. Now, I don't know whether it's reasonable to think that Venezuelan migrants who have been on a bus for a whole bunch of time and coming through Mexico and all these things, that they would necessarily be up on the latest declarations from Kamala Harris. So the entire thing is bad faith, but here's the answer.
La frontera es cerrado or abierto?
Abierto.
Abierto.
Okay, so he asks, is the border open or closed? And she says, it's open. And this is supposed to be some kind of gotcha moment.
What she's saying, Steve, I asked her if Vice President Harris says that the border is closed. She says it's open as we see these migrants coming across now. We're not sure how many there are. We do know that, according to Texas Governor Abbott's office, there have been about 7,900. Pardon me, do you speak English? ¿Habla inglés?
No, amigo.
¿De dónde eres?
Venezuela.
Okay, so another individual correctly identifying Deranged as where are you from and says he's from Venezuela.
Venezuela? Everybody from todos Venezuela?
Sí, venimos prácticamente de Venezuela, país, un país muy duro.
Yep. So Griff asks, is everybody on the bus from Venezuela? And the guy says, yeah, mostly, it's a really difficult situation in Venezuela right now.
En realidad, queríamos ya salir de allá, tenemos días viajando. Migración también nos ha jodido mucho en México, pero lo que queremos es triunfar, queremos evolucionar, queremos tener de todo, queremos...
So what this gentleman is explaining, and Griff Jenkins has absolutely no idea what's being said, and this would be the most interesting thing to translate, is, yes, it's been a really difficult trip. We've been traveling for days. They kind of screwed us in Mexico, and we want to be here. We want to do things. We want to work, I believe he said. This would actually be relevant to translate, but of course, they're not actually set up for that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, buena suerte. So I'm not going to be able to translate all of that, and I wouldn't even try because it wouldn't look good on live TV. But
yeah, he has no idea what the guy said.
As you can see, they're coming across here, all of these migrants. It appears to be at least 20 or so at this point. We have 2 buses. So what I was saying was, we know from Governor Abbott's office, there have been about 7,900 migrants on over 190 buses coming to D.C., more than 2,200 on more than 40 buses to New York, and of course, about 5 buses to Chicago with a little over 300 migrants.
Let's see if we can get one more interview in, Griff, because they're just so good.
¿De dónde eres?
¿De dónde eres?
¿De dónde eres?
No entiendo, no inglés.
So he says, I don't understand English, which is really funny because Griff appears to be trying to speak Spanish. And this guy's like, I don't speak English.
¿Habla inglés?
No.
Okay. Hola. ¿Cómo estás?
Bien.
Now he's talking to a kid. Now he starts talking to a kid, at which point I'm going to cut the interview. It seems like a parody. It is important to mention, if all these folks are really coming over, it kind of seems to prove Trump didn't really build the wall, right? I mean, he claims he built it, and yet, of course, the wall could be defeated with $100 in supplies from a Home Depot, as we learned. So no great deterrent if it were built, but it wasn't. But Trump claims it was, and yet these folks are still here. So just another one of these pathetic displays. Get an actual Spanish-speaking reporter who can translate. The thing about it is, if you're going to try to communicate in Spanish and you're going to struggle, that's okay, as long as then you have the ability to understand and explain what these folks are saying. Because the guy there who told the story of how they came to be in the U.S., traveling for days, Mexican immigrant, all these different things. If you don't speak Spanish, you have no clue what the guy said, and Griff Jenkins just laughs it off by saying, I'm not going to try to translate all that. These people are pathetic, and it's disgusting. Let me know what you think. Find me on Twitter at @dpacman. We're going to take a quick break and be right back. One of our sponsors today is Jayatal. Jayatal is a stellar melodic dance music duo and one of the UK's most exciting electronic acts. Jayatal have made their name through legendary live shows that incorporate drums, guitar, electronics, taking them on tours across Europe. They've appeared on BBC. Their newest release, called Connected, will knock you off your feet, written and recorded entirely remotely during COVID. My favorite track from the album is the one you're hearing right now, called It's Coming Round Again. Probably because I'm a drummer, but I love acoustic drums accompanied by a bed of electronic layers, and the track really gets the drums going. In all of their music, even something as simple as the synth bass sounds like it was carefully adjusted for hours to hit your ear just the right way. These guys will take you on a journey. And Jayatal are big fans of The David Pakman Show. If you like unusual but deeply gratifying electronica, check out Jay Attell on their new release, Connected, wherever you stream or buy music. They're on YouTube and social media. You can book them for a show, and you can find them using the link below. The David Pakman Show is nothing but a community-supported program. You can sign up at joinpakman.com and get instant access to the award-winning bonus show. It's all awards we give. I'm glad to admit that, but a number of milestone awards now racking up for that bonus show. Sign up at joinpakman.com. Radical and very repugnant Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene appears to have kicked a gun safety activist 2 times, and it's on video. These are the people who say we're against violence, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It seems like they're against it only in certain cases. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene denies she kicked an 18-year-old political activist in an incident caught on video in which it's pretty damn clear that that's exactly what she did. Marjorie Taylor Greene was walking behind gun rights activist Mariana Pecora. Mariana Pecora is holding a phone recording, and not once but twice in this video, I see Marjorie Taylor Greene deliberately looking down and appearing to kick Mariana Pecora. This is an elected member of Congress. Yes, elected by lunatics, but this is the United States of America. Lunatics are allowed to elect whoever they want, and lunatics are allowed to run. And sometimes they elect each other. Let's take a look at this video, see what you make of it. And again, if you're just listening today, I'll describe it.
The Second Amendment, how does the Second Amendment prevent gun violence? You're the one that believes that the insurrection...
Okay, so there's the first kick. Marjorie Taylor Greene kind of speeding up, and you can tell that she steps on her or kicks her. And then Mariana kind of moves to her right, and then it happens again. And then it airs again. A second kick. And of course, it's all under the guise of, oh, you're walking right in front of me and so closely and all of these different things. Oh, it's all an accident.
Excuse me, ma'am. You're blocking the member of Congress.
You're blocking the Congresswoman. That's why she kicked you twice.
Stay away. You can't block members of Congress. You literally cannot do that.
Yeah, so there's Marjorie Taylor Greene. And remember, she is in favor of due process, and she's in favor of the rule of law. She's for law and order. She's against violence. And yet you see that she very clearly kind of speeds up in order to kick her on the back of the leg, and kicks her 2 or 3 times. This woman is truly the lowest of the low. It looks like assault to me. I hope Mariana Pecora presses charges. And initially there was a camera angle that made it seem potentially accidental. There really seems to be no question here that it's intentional. It's just a question of, can you actually demonstrate that or show it for sure? But think about how far, we've talked about their allegations are actually confessions. Oh, the Democrats are going to use voter fraud and try to steal an election they don't win. It's what Republicans did, right? And we have dozens of such examples. When here it comes to this issue of we're against violence, but you should be able to talk about anything you want. Remember, they love saying that on Twitter. You should be able to talk about whatever you want, and there should never. We don't use physical accosting or violence, or we don't do that. Everybody should be allowed to talk and say whatever they want, free from violence. Well, here is a public street where an activist goes to Marjorie Taylor Greene and asks a question about the Second Amendment, which is what they claim we should all be able to do. I mean, it's America after all. And Marjorie Taylor Greene kicks this woman at least twice, if not 3 times. Their principles don't matter once they are inconvenient. And questions about the Second Amendment in these formats are inconvenient to these Republicans. And so this is the outcome. It's truly despicable. I hope charges are filed. We're continuing our coverage of some of the most important and consequential races in 2022. One such race is the Georgia Senate election. This is the race in which Democrat Raphael Warnock is the incumbent. And on the other side, very disturbingly, Herschel Walker, former NFL football player, is the Republican nominee. There is a new series of videos of Herschel Walker at some kind of event. And in this event, we've heard Herschel Walker be completely incoherent about the economy. We've heard Herschel Walker be completely incoherent about gun violence. We've heard Herschel Walker be completely incoherent about social media. Here, he delves into issues of race relations and the Constitution and what he refers to as the 14th Amandment. Now, that's not my pronunciation. I want to be very clear, but this is another one of these examples where Walker looks visibly confused by the things coming out of his mouth. He doesn't seem to know what he's saying, and certainly no one in the room has any clue what this guy is saying. And he is even in the polls with Raphael Warnock. This is one of the most important races. Not only is it important, because if Democrats do hold the Senate, it may be by only one seat. And if this race doesn't go the way of Raphael Warnock, it could be because of Herschel Walker that Democrats lose control of the Senate. It's important for that reason. It's also important because this guy is so unqualified to be a senator that it really puts in serious relief, I guess I would say. You really feel the texture of how absurd the modern Republican Party has become, that they're willing to vote for a guy like this. So let's listen to this first clip about the 14th Amendment.
I'm like, whoa. I said, first of all, you read the Bible, forgiveness. And I said, if you read the Constitution in the 14th Amendment, do you know our forefather was apologizing for the whiteness because they said every man be treated fair. But what has happened, we elected the wrong people to office that then pick that baton up and run with it.
Okay, do you know what he just said? If you read the Constitution, the 14th Amendment, you know our forefather was apologizing for their whiteness because they say every man be treated fair. But what has happened? We elected the wrong people to office that didn't pick up the baton and run with it. I don't know what that means.
They left the baton there and complained about what was happening rather than trying to fix it.
Yeah. And the woman to his left nodding, she seems to get it. I don't know what he's talking about, guys. I genuinely don't. And these are just scrambled is the only way I can describe the talking points. Here's another example of this stuff. And you know what is true is what has been pointed out by some of our viewers. He's doing like a red meat word salad. It's like a Republican red meat bingo, where even if it's completely scrambled in terms of its syntax, there are individual words there that are triggers to Republicans to get mad.
We laugh, but they're talking about a green agenda. They get mad at me because I say, I don't want any more trees. I want police officers.
Right. So this is like mixing two things. Green agenda. Oh, that's very bad. Very, very bad. And I want police officers. Oh, yeah. We support the police. I mean, okay. Not the law enforcement officers that handled the search warrant at Trump's house, and not the Capitol Police that were there on January 6th. We don't support them. But as a general concept, we support police officers.
I want border patrol. I want somebody in my school to protect my kids. 87 RS agents.
87 RS agents. Now, it's just a scrambled talking point. You guys might remember there's this talking point about Joe Biden's hiring 87,000 new IRS agents. Now, the truth is 55,000 of them are over the next period of time because there's so many employees retiring from the IRS. It's just to replace them. We'll go over the details of those numbers Friday, but the talking point is 87,000 IRS agents. The talking point is a lie. And Herschel Walker calls the talking point 87 agents.
They're laughing because I said trees. No, I don't want trees. I want police officers.
Yeah. What
I want to do is I can tell you this. I happen to be doing, Julie was telling you about the theme weeks I was doing.
Yeah, he's doing a theme week. I don't know if it's infrastructure or whatever. And so what's the scariest thing about all of this? The scariest thing about all of this is that if you look at the Real Clear Politics average, Georgia Senate, Walker versus Warnock, you see that it is now a tie. If you look at the last 4 polls, it's Walker +1 in the right-leaning Trafalgar poll, Walker +2 in an Emerson poll, Walker +3 in an Insider Advantage poll, and Warnock +6 in a Quinnipiac poll. Now, I will tell you, I believe the Quinnipiac poll is probably the highest quality poll of the 4. That's the one that has Warnock winning. But this is really scary stuff. The people of Georgia may send a man who can't explain his views on any issue to be one of 100 members of the Senate. If you're listening today and you'd like to take a look at those clips I just played, head on over to our Instagram at David Pakman Show, and you can check out the full horror of those clips. Don't forget that the best way to support the David Pakman Show is by becoming a member, which gives you access to the daily bonus show, the regular show with no commercials. You also get access to our entire archive of every episode dating back a really long time, and plenty of other awesome membership perks. Go to joinpakman.com and use the coupon code BETTER21 for a huge discount. Joinpakman.com. Donald Trump held a rally in Ohio on Saturday night. It was ostensibly for J.D. Vance, who's the Republican Senate candidate there running against Tim Ryan. This was the most cultish Trump rally I have ever seen. A new staple at the Trump rallies is that when Donald Trump is doing his kind of final build to his Make America Great Again, Make America Safe Again, they now play, I don't even know, like an esoteric musical bed that almost seems fake. It almost seems like a parody. This is the one of the strangest moments I've ever seen at any political rally ever. Globally, experts on fascism and cults are poring over this video like the Zapruder film. Take a look at this.
We are a nation that allowed Russia to devastate a country, Ukraine, killing hundreds of thousands of people, and it will only get worse.
And what you can see there is the cult people holding up a single finger. Now, there's a bunch of interpretations of this. One is there's this QAnon thing, which is like, I forget exactly, it's like WWG1, WGA. And what the phrase means is, where one of us goes, we will go together. And so the one that is being held could be the one from that QAnon thing. Another interpretation is they're doing the Heil Hitler, but with a single finger to make it less crazy looking. I don't think that that's what this is. It's insane, but this is a very serious cult.
It would never have happened with me as your commander-in-chief. And for 4 long years, it didn't happen. And China, with Taiwan, is next. We are a nation that has weaponized its law enforcement against the opposing political party like never, ever before. We've got a Federal Bureau of Investigation that won't allow bad election-changing facts to be presented to the public. Where Hunter Biden's laptop...
Folks, this is the United States. This is a former president.
...was Russian disinformation when they knew it wasn't, and a Department of Justice that refuses to investigate egregious acts of voting irregularities and fraud, and we have a president who is cognitively impaired and in no condition to lead our country, which may end up in World War III.
Yeah, somehow I don't think so.
We're a nation that no longer has a free press and has no fair press any longer. Fake news is all you get, and they are truly the enemy of the people. We are a nation where free speech is no longer allowed, where crime is rampant like never before, where the economy has been collapsing, where more people died of COVID in 2021 than in 2020. We are a nation that is allowing Iran to build a massive nuclear weapon and China to use the trillions of dollars it has taken from...
All right, let's pause it here. Like nothing I have ever seen before. Truly and completely fascistic. These are sort of like dictatorial wet dreams. I mean, this would make Fidel Castro blush, quite frankly. Later on, a lot of other of the typical things also happened during this speech. Later on, Donald Trump seemed to forget where he was, like where he was giving the speech, and he referred to it as this location.
William McKinley, you know, he was a great president. He was the king of tariffs. That's why I like him, because he said that we don't want other foreign powers coming in here and stealing our wealth. He was hailed from right here. He came in from this location.
That's the best. He was such an important place he was from. It was from right this here where we are now. Donald Trump still completely scrambled on Ulysses S. Grant, continuing to, first of all, it's weird how much Trump refers to Ulysses S. Grant. And it's also weird that he keeps calling him Ulysses.
For their beloved country. Ohio is the state that gave us American heroes, icons, and legends with names like Neil Armstrong, Annie Oakley, and the great general and president Ulysses S. Grant.
There it is, Ulysses. Still, I mean, you would think someone would come up to him with tears in their eyes and say, "Sir, it's Ulysses." Donald Trump bemoaned the claims about a urine tape involving Trump, saying it was really tough to explain that one to Melania.
In the phony Steele dossier, it was all phony. How'd you like to be me and go home and explain that one to my wife? Darling, it wasn't true. I swear it wasn't. Remember that one with the hookers from Russia? Darling, I'd like to explain this to you. It was all phony. It was all a phony made up.
Yeah, it was all fake. And then lastly, it wasn't all fun and games. There was a moment where the crowd in Ohio was so bored that they were in complete silence. And at one point in this clip, if you're watching, you'll see the camera cut to the crowd. They almost look like statues.
And 100% would have never happened, should have never happened. But we gave now $80 billion, and Europe is given $6 billion. Now, Europe is a similar size when all added up to the United States, the economy of Europe, if you add it all up. And they're in for a lot less money than us. And you know, it's a sad thing because they're in for less, but they're affected a lot more than we are.
Yeah, just an electric environment there, an electric atmosphere. So a deranged rally in Ohio was supposedly in support of J.D. Vance. At one point during the thing, Trump actually made fun of J.D. Vance. It's all backwards. It was all completely... people's brains are turning to mayonnaise at these rallies, is what it seems like. And of course, the attendees weren't much better. Let's look at that next. We're going to look at a couple of videos from attendees at the Youngstown, Ohio Trump rally over the weekend. This was the rally at which Donald Trump was supposedly going to support J.D. Vance, although he at one point made fun of J.D. Vance, but that doesn't really matter. Let's look at some of the videos of people who went. This one is unbelievable. There is a woman who is thrilled that Trump called out to her, even though Trump referred to her as this guy. This, especially with everything that's going on right now with Trump's transphobia and the resurgence of transphobia among the right, something about this video just cracks me up. Check this out.
What about tonight?
It was wonderful. The president talked to me.
Beforehand or at the end?
At the end. I hollered, I loved him. He stopped and he said, I love you too. And then he said, this guy says he loves me. And I said, well, I'm a woman.
Oh, all of these events are completely beyond parody. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And it's funny because these folks love to say, Democrats and the left, you don't know what a woman is. You can't identify a woman. It's so obvious what's a woman, what's a man, who's a woman, who's a man. And then now it's all a big joke that Trump thought this woman was a man. I guess some Republicans struggle with that as well, it seems. And it sort of puts into particular perspective these absurd transphobic anecdotes that Donald Trump now regularly tells at his rallies. Another interview that took place with a rally attendee was actually with a January 6th defendant, Mickey Larson, known as the Q Patriot, I guess. was interviewed by Donald Trump's attorney, Christina Bobb, who is also an anchor on Right Side Broadcasting. I mean, every detail is absurd. Take a listen to this.
I served Air Force for 21 years. I'm a January 6th defendant. Can we say that? And I wrote a poem called We're Ready to Fight. I have a copy I'll give to you.
Oh, that sounds great. You look fantastic. What prompted the outfit?
I started this after the election was stolen. I actually had bought
By the way, so the woman is dressed with, I can't even describe it. She seems to have like a tentacle wig of red, white, and blue, and then like a crazy glitter hat. And it's an insane outfit. And it's funny because it's like, what made you start dressing like this? Well, when they stole the election from Trump, I started dressing like a lunatic. Oh, that makes sense.
A Halloween costume, and I was in Arizona doing a Patriot party out there, and my costume was in Abilene, Texas. So I was like, I need to find a reason to wear it. So the first time I wore it was November of 2021 at a MAGA car rally, and then it just became a thing, and now I wear it to all the events.
Well, it is great. You look fantastic. It's energizing. I think people are excited. I'm going to bring it over here to Brian, who's got an announcement to make.
Yeah, they're going to try to get, it looked like Christina Bobb actually got a signal from someone off camera to get away from that. And then this is this is really, really funny. You know how it's like a point of pride at some of these rallies to say you came from really far away. It really just proves your cultist credentials, but they love to say, oh, I drove 5 hours, 10 hours, whatever. A woman explains she drove 5 hours to the Trump rally, and the interviewer tries to push on her that the gas prices were probably crazy. And the woman admits, the gas prices really weren't that bad.
And you're from Indiana? How long was that drive?
5 hours and 20 minutes.
Not too bad, but I'm sure the gas prices were bad.
Well, wasn't too bad.
For what, a year and a half, they've been saying Joe Biden's gas prices are destroying the country. And this woman goes, we came from 5 hours away. Really, we didn't really pay that much. Gas prices were actually quite reasonable. Every little detail of this cult is putting SNL out of business. I mean, you can't really parody this. And then the last component of this, yes, is MyPillow. Let's go to that next. MyPillow CEO and founder Mike Lindell, known to us as Pillow, the guy who wants to sue the machines.
We're doing a class action lawsuit against all machines.
He spoke outside the Trump rally in Ohio. Remember, his phone was recently seized by the FBI at a Hardee's drive-thru. Pillow is potentially in very serious trouble. Legally, we looked at the search warrant last week. He spoke for almost 90 straight minutes outside the Trump rally. And his brain is mush. Check this out.
I was in Georgia on January 4th of 2021. And I was down there at that big rally for the 2 senator runoffs, right? And I said, all of a sudden I started praying. I go, God, please let them take both of these senators. And you're going, okay, Mike, you did it. No, okay. The reason I say that, I'm a marketer, and I'm going, if I was working for that evil, I would say, give them back one of these senators so they shut up about the election, okay? Had they done that, maybe not you guys, but most of the people in this country would have said, Mike, or you guys, we still have the Senate, we'll get them back in 2022, okay?
Any idea what he's talking about, anybody?
Well, I got news for you. There wouldn't have been a 2022. It would have been over if they would have been smart and just give one back. But instead, you all know exactly where you were when they stole them both. Right. And everyone's going, oh, now what are we going to do? Maybe there was election crime. People that were on the fringe are all going, 100 million people in this country went, now what?
Yeah. So not making a lot of sense is MyPillow. And then last clip here, as you might remember, again, it was the FBI who executed the search warrant on Pillow, took his phone, and so on and so forth. Now he says he will be suing the FBI for the violation of basically the entire Bill of Rights. Listen to this.
Okay. My lawyers and I got together the last couple days.
We got together over a Hardee's, I couldn't tell you what they have, over a Hardee's, chicken sandwich, I guess.
And on Tuesday, we're suing the United States government and the FBI. We're suing them for violating our First Amendment rights, our Fourth Amendment rights, It's our Fifth Amendment right and our Sixth Amendment right.
The more amendments he mentions, the more the crowd cheers the lawsuit. Really amazing. I mean, truly, truly incredible stuff. And this guy's in serious trouble. He really is. I mean, and we like to joke about Pillow, and he was recently all over our Facebook page, leaving all sorts of comments, arguing with many of you, as some of you noticed. It's all fun and games until the FBI takes your phone, and MyPillow could be in serious trouble. And remember, he would be much better off if he had just stuck to selling pillows and slippers and straitjackets or whatever he sells. He would be better off. Trump would have been better off if he never got involved in any of this stuff. And now it's going to be years of problems for them. But there it is, a complete House of Horrors sideshow outside and before the Trump rally. But the scariest moment, probably the Trump rally itself, those incredibly cult-like moments with his fans holding up one finger. And if you know what that was about, let me know. We're still trying to figure it out. Crazy, crazy times in the United States of America. If you value what we do at the David Pakman Show, remember to support us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show, where you can get access to behind the scenes videos, the daily bonus show, the commercial-free daily show, as well as special discounts on merch, including hats, hoodies, mugs, and t-shirts. You can support the show for as little as $2 a month. Check it out at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. All right, so as we continue to, in some sense, wait to see what ultimately happens with criminal charges against the failed former president, Donald Trump, he has returned to his Mar-a-Lago home for the first time since the now infamous search warrant that was served, the raid, as many call it, in Mar-a-Lago. And Donald Trump is absolutely furious. He's raging that the FBI allegedly didn't take their shoes off when they went into his house, and all sorts of other crazy things. There's just a lot going on, and some of the cultists were up all night waiting to welcome Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. So let's go through all of it. Business Insider reports Donald Trump is back at Mar-a-Lago and raging about FBI agents not taking off their shoes while searching his bedroom. Donald Trump published a message to Truth Social, also known as Troth Central, where he said, quote, "Arrived in Florida last night and had a long and detailed chance to check out the scene of yet another government crime, the FBI's raid and break-in of my home, Mar-a-Lago." Remember, it was not a crime and it was not a break-in. The FBI showed up with a search warrant. FBI director signed off on it. Attorney General signed off on it. A judge signed off on it. Perfectly legal. Trump going on to say, "I guess they don't think there is a Fourth Amendment anymore," and to them there isn't. Of course, there is no Fourth Amendment violation because of the things I just mentioned. Trump continuing, "In any event, after what they have done, the place will never be the same. It was, quote, ransacked." Now, why does Trump put ransacked in quotes? Does he mean it wasn't really ransacked? Because when you put it in quotes, it almost suggests he doesn't think it was ransacked. Anyway, and in far different condition than the way I left it, many agents, and they didn't even take off their shoes in my bedroom. Nice, nice. Now, to give you a sense of the level of cultishness that's going on here, there were people waiting for Trump's arrival in the middle of the night, lining the street. Check this out.
Coming back to his Florida home Sunday night, dozens of his supporters waiting along the bridge on Southern Boulevard, waving their flags, cheering as he drove through.
Yeah, this is a cult. This is a cult. And it's not even like I'm necessarily passing a value judgment. I mean, I do in other segments, obviously. I think it's an absurd cult based on lies and confusion, but it's a cult. And we've spoken to cult experts, and that is indeed what it is. There's another video. This one was from yesterday afternoon, which was hours before Trump even got back. Real America's Voice, American Sunrise was there. This was at 8 a.m. and you see all these people holding crosses, some guy dressed as Trump, American flags, Trump flags, other paraphernalia, a sign that said Trump won, honk for Trump. just all sorts of different characters because they're waiting to welcome a potential criminal. That's what they're doing here. Now, my prediction is that with Donald Trump back at Mar-a-Lago, and understand there's two parts to this. One, Trump's back at Mar-a-Lago, which he considers the scene of the crime or whatever. I think it'll trigger him more than being in New York, being back there. And that will probably lead to a particularly unhinged Trump. But also, Mar-a-Lago has become a sort of like, it's almost like the wedding at the beginning of The Godfather, where all of the acolytes and brown nosers and suck-ups are making their pilgrimages, so to speak. And that's what they do at Mar-a-Lago. Trump hosts people, everybody from, Kyle Rittenhouse to other right-wing heroes. Yeah, I know. And so it's likely, I would say, that Trump's visitors are going to fire him up and give him ideas. He'll probably be meeting with lawyers. And so I expect it's going to be a really, really crazy week. One other little note on what's been going on with Trump lately. There has been a preview released by Newsmax of what they're calling a special. And this is a special in which right-wing actor Jon Voight, who's the father of actress Angelina Jolie, Jon Voight, who really has not seemed with it for a while in terms of his connection to reality, he actually wept during the interview. Or maybe wept is too much. He cried. So this is something else we're going to be watching out for very, very closely.
And she came in and you said, I hear you're having a little bit of a difficulty. And she said, well, I have some cancer issues. And see, I'm getting emotional. See, this is from you keep saying the champ. You can't watch the champ without crying. Well, I can't go through this story without crying. And you said, I'll take care of.
Yeah. So a visibly emotional Jon Voight, overcome with how good of a person and genuine and caring and all of these other things that we have no evidence for Donald Trump is. So that's the latest there. And we'll keep an eye on Mar-a-Lago this week. Could be quite a week. The new thing seems to be fat shaming people who have abandoned the Trump cult. Last week, I played a video for you, which we'll review later, of Donald Trump going after William Barr, who is still a right-wing nut. I mean, William Barr is still a right-wing nut, but William Barr has said, this classified document stuff is crazy, and Trump didn't win the election. William Barr has stated some factual things. Trump said all he wanted to do is eat. So the next one is that now Trump is fat shaming Chris Christie. Now, Chris Christie is obese. That's absolutely true. But so is Donald Trump. And so there's a couple different factors to this, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. Donald Trump, this is Yahoo News, actually Business Insider, it seems. Donald Trump shares fat-shaming photo of Chris Christie on Truth Social following critical Mar-a-Lago interview. Donald Trump shared a photo on Truth Social of a large man leaning over a buffet counter. He captioned the post, Chris Christie at a Roy Rogers at 11 p.m. in the evening trying to console himself. Trump has been accused of fat-shaming Christie after Christie gave a critical ABC News interview. Now, we don't know who the man in the picture is. Take a look at this picture, just so if you're watching. It really does look like Chris Christie. And I've been in a room, this is so, it sounds like I'm joking, but I've been in a room that had a food station with Chris Christie when we were both at Politicon, and behind the scenes, they had a whole food thing for us. It does look like Chris Christie. I mean, I don't know whether it's Chris Christie or not, but Donald Trump posting Chris Christie at a Roy Rogers at 11 p.m. in the evening trying to console himself. And of course, he is just attacking Chris Christie for being obese. Here is the clip I mentioned of him going after William Barr because Barr is overweight.
That's what I'm looking for, General. How these stiffs that we have, these weak, stupid people. These attorney generals that don't know how to do their job. Like Bill Barr, all he wanted to do is eat.
All he wanted to do was eat. So there's a couple things here. Number one, the criticisms of the people that have abandoned Trump have to be like this. Because even though there's still people I don't agree with, John Bolton, William Barr, Chris Christie, and some of them haven't even really abandoned Trump. Some of them have just said, I like Trump, but he's wrong about this one thing. Their criticisms of Trump are completely substantive in almost all cases. And so it's not like Trump can come back at them with anything substantive because he would just be lying, which he has no problem doing, but it would sort of be very obvious. So instead, he has to go to this type of stuff. Oh, he's fat, he's heavy, this different type of thing. That's one part of it, that he's focusing on this because there's really no substantive response to the things that these folks are saying. The other part of it is that Trump is obese. And so Trump making fun or attacking others because they are overweight is also weird. And I don't know that I need to give you these numbers necessarily, but just to kind of like check my math, Trump claims to be 6'3" and 239. Now that would put him like right on the edge of being obese according to BMI. Now BMI is not a perfect metric. We know that if you're a bodybuilder, BMI will say you're obese, and that's not relevant or accurate in any kind of operational sense. But for a lot of people, it gives us kind of an idea. Now, I don't believe Trump's 6'3", and I don't believe Trump is 239, and most people don't. We know Trump's not 6'3", because Barack Obama is 6'2", and Tom Brady is 6'4", and when Trump's next to Brady, even wearing it's pretty widely known Trump wears lifts, wearing whatever shoes Trump wears, he's notably shorter than Tom Brady. So he's nowhere near 6'3", Brady's 6'4", and he seems to be about the same height or slightly shorter than Barack Obama. So when you know that, and you say, well, Trump is conservative, Trump has to weigh at least 255, he might weigh 265. If Trump is 6'2" or 6'1" and weighs 255 or 265, it's all obese. It's all obesity. So do I care that Trump's obese? No. Trump doesn't exercise and eats a terrible diet. It's kind of not shocking. But he's going after people a lot because they are obese or overweight, when he himself is, of course, as well. So this is another, what are the principles that we continue to see? Republicans claim to have one set of principles and abandon them when it's inconvenient. Trump and other Republicans, they love to make allegations, which we later learn were actually almost like confessions of the things they were doing or the things that they planned to do themselves. Voter fraud, trying to steal an election they didn't win is, of course, at the top of the list. And also claiming that they are about policy and substance and whatever else, and then fat shaming their political opponents when they can't come up with anything substantive to say. So their principles actually don't matter. They only care about their principles when they are convenient. We have a voicemail number, and that number is 219-2-DAVID-P. Some of you might like this. The San Antonio troll has come out of the woodwork, and he is once again slamming me for things I never said and that I don't believe. We have been hearing from the San Antonio troll for years. And one of the hallmarks of the calls to our voicemail number from the San Antonio troll is that he will slam me and criticize me for things that he must have either made up altogether or heard on a different show, because they don't reflect in any way things that I've said on this program. This is an exact example of that. Here, the San Antonio troll slams me for the things I said and the things I believe about the Ron DeSantis Martha's Vineyard stunt. He's just confused. And for those of you who listen to other progressive shows, let me know if you can tell who he might actually be talking about.
Pac-Man, it is your dear old friend, San Antonio Troll.
Yep.
I'm from Texas, and I saw you flip out about this story where, oh my God, they're sending migrants to Massachusetts. Why this video?
Wasn't this show? I wasn't flipping out at all.
I think it's funny you're flipping out and getting kind of a little triggered. And it's funny that the great, rich, wealthy people of Martha's Vineyard already deported these people.
So it's not a deportation when you go to a different state, first of all. And secondly, as I've talked about earlier, Martha's Vineyard is a tiny island with very few jobs and even fewer jobs off season. There's a few hotels and, a couple stop and shops. there's very little to do. So there's just no jobs there for the immigrant. I mean, this whole concept of deportation is crazy. And by the way, before today, and this voicemail was left over the weekend, I hadn't even talked about the immigrants leaving Martha's Vineyard. So this couldn't possibly be about anything I said.
But you've always been in favor of open borders. What's the matter? All of a sudden...
Not this show. As many of you know, I have never been in favor of open borders. As I have said before, we need a path to citizenship for those who came here as minors and are still here, and this is really their home. We need immigration reform. The wall is pretty dumb. I have never been for open borders. In fact, there are people in my audience to my left who do want open borders, and I've said, no, countries are allowed to have a border and to enforce it, but let's do it in a way that makes sense.
No. It's cheap. This proves my point of liberalism. Everything is the moral high ground with you. You're more like, we should let everybody in. We should give this to everybody.
That's never been something I've said.
Do this for nobody should carry around guns. It's very easy to take these holier than thou positions when you live 2,000 miles away.
Yeah, not positions I've taken, but talk to somebody who maybe has taken them.
That's all, Pac-Man. 2,000 miles away in your big double-gated community with armed security guards at the front at the ready. Very easy to say, hey, let everybody into our borders.
Yep. Okay. So anyway, I've never said let everybody in. Very, very confused individual. Here's my request. I am more than, it's not I'm willing. I'm interested in receiving critiques of my views, being corrected. I issue corrections, all of that. But call in and talk to me about something I've said. That's my request. All right. We have a fantastic bonus show for you today.
Oh, the bonus show where you want to make money. Everybody else that makes money to fund themselves is bad.
All of Puerto Rico is without electricity as Hurricane Fiona has made landfall. I hope that Joe Biden's response to this hurricane is going to be better than that of Donald Trump during Trump's term. We're going to talk about it. We are going to talk about the special master assigned to review the documents taken from Trump's Mar-a-Lago. His name is Raymond Dearie. We'll tell you all about him. And we are also going to talk about Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, challenging Florida Governor Ron DeSantis to a debate after migrants were sent to Massachusetts, as we have extensively covered. All of those stories and more on today's bonus show. Don't miss it. Sign up at joinpacman.com, and I'll see you then. Thanks a lot for watching today's show. I just want to take a second to tell you about today's sponsors. Real quick, go check out Jayatal, the UK's most exciting electronic music duo. Their newest release, Connected, is available wherever you get music. It's energetic, melodic blast of electronica, ingeniously infused with acoustic instruments, and they support The David Pakman Show. Check them out using the link below.